Hello. I just went live because it. I was very worried that I was going to forget when the live countdown ended and began. But let me. Ah! Oh no! Oh no! It's me. Ah. Okay. This reminds me of. I haven't gone live in a while, and it reminds me of Project for Awesome, which might have actually been the last time I did something like this. Pop-up chat. Hello. Hi, Spanton. Hi, Tea Makers in Chief. In chief. I don't know why it just kind of like fell out of my mouth. Hi, Valkyrie. Nice to see you. I've had a day of like being very focused on certain things, on like work and on my studies, and just like focusing in these directions. So I thought I would go live and talk to you all about whatever it is you want to talk about, and just to mix it up a bit. I think I just needed like a change of scene. Hello, hi to MC, Emilio, Shane, Emma, Carly, Sarah. Thank you for being here today. Olivia, lovely. I'm just going to say all of your names as you arrive, and try and minimize the 17,000 tabs that I have. Hi, Laura and Lindsay and Andreen. So many people. How lovely. How lovely. Hi, Rodney. No, I won't be at VidCon this year. Most likely, the number one reason for that is that the UK still has a travel ban from the US. So UK citizens aren't actually allowed to travel to the US without doing like a 2-week stay. So theoretically, I could travel to Mexico for 2 weeks and then travel to the US to get around the travel ban, but it's just like complicated, and I'm also like I'm not really getting on public transport, so getting on a plane feels even scarier. So it'd be strange that VidCon will go on and I'll just sort of like be looking at it from afar. But that's also okay. I think I've been really enjoying traveling. Thank you for the kind words, Josh, about my travel vlogs. I've been really enjoying traveling around the UK and seeing more of it, which is not something that would have been in the plan were it not for everything going on. And I actually, part of the reason why I wanted to go live is because I keep wanting to upload my next cycle trip video, which is the Midlands, because I have the Midlands and then I also have North England filmed, but I haven't finished editing it, and it's taken me a long time to edit, and I'm doing a course at the moment. So I haven't really had much of a chance to finish editing the videos, but I didn't want that to stop me being able to chat with you all. So yeah, I have seen In the Heights. I've seen In the Heights twice. I loved it. I mean, the first time was at a press preview screening thing, and my friends can attest that I was just a mess. I was so emotional about it. They also pumped us full of margaritas, which I'm sure really helped. I think it's brilliant. Like I definitely think it's worth taking into consideration and hearing the voices of people who are talking about colorism in the Latin American community, because that's certainly reflected in the film. But at the same time, I really appreciated how Lin-Manuel responded to that whole conversation and like said, yes, we need to do better. And it was thrilling to see the representation of mixed community for me, and that sounded like what I grew up hearing. I felt similarly to how I felt when I saw Coco for the first time. It's like the rhythm of Spanish, the rhythm of language. It was really exciting to see. So I loved it. I've been listening to the soundtrack a lot. I love the musical, and part of it is also like I haven't been able to go to the theatre, obviously. I don't know about many of you guys. I haven't been able to go to the theatre for well over a year, and I love the theatre, and it gave me that feeling of being at the theatre and that excitement of like being at a musical, which isn't a feeling that I have had for a while, so that's really nice. Thank you for my kind words about my bike vlogs. It makes me so happy to hear that. It's really fun to edit them. They're just very long. So it takes a bit like a mental situation to get into. I'm doing a course at SOAS, one of the University of London universities here, called Conflict and International Development. It's a 2-week summer school, academic summer school, and it's been really brilliant. It's a really thoughtful and interdisciplinary approach to development studies, and has just been a great introduction to me again to like formal education. And actually, yesterday I applied for a master's that we'll see whether or not that happens. Yeah, see what's going on. But that's another reason why I potentially can't go to VidCon, is because I might be at uni again. Who knows? All very exciting. But I have like, I'll be honest, like having this course to do over the past like week and a half has been really, really helpful for me, and really wonderful, because there's a lot going on in the UK at the moment, with like cases increasing and so on, and a lot of loved ones are getting COVID or getting self-isolation notifications, and it's just a bit stressful, really, as I'm sure it is in many of your communities. And it's been really nice to have something structured to focus on. And part of the reason I applied is also because I foresee this being a continuing theme throughout winter and into the next year. So it'd be nice to have like a structured thing that I'm working on and like enjoying and learning new things from, that I can bring to my work, and not just my work with John, but also my work on YouTube, especially telling stories of migration in particular. So yeah, a couple of you have asked what the master's in. It's a Master of Science in Migration, Mobility and Development. So really 100% up my street. And some of those themes have been covered in the summer school course that I'm doing. So yeah, it's been really exciting to do that, and also really fun to sort of like stretch my legs with academic writing again. And how much I struggle with structuring those essays. It's so me to start writing something and then want to go in 17 different tangents, and having to like really look at planning and structure again is really good for me. Something else that was really cool is that I felt very anxious about writing a personal statement, because I particularly remember struggling with that in secondary school. So when you apply for uni in the UK, you write a personal statement where you talk about sort of your ambitions and why this uni should accept you and so on. And then I just remember feeling so overwhelmed by it and so anxious about it when I was applying for uni in secondary school, that my personal statement was so bad. And I just remember my teacher taking me aside to be like, what is this? Essentially. And I always felt like if I wrote a personal statement now, if I could like go back in time and write that personal statement now from when I was 16, 17, it would be loads better, and I would feel so much more confident pumping myself up. That being said, I had to write a personal statement for my master's application, which was a bit longer. It was like it was 1,000 words, so like 2 pages of A4. And it was similarly challenging, because just the notion of having to sit down and write it filled me with a certain level of anxiety. Now, once I sat down and started writing about the work I've been doing over the last 10 years, it was really wonderful to see these different connections between all the different projects I've been working on and the types of work I've been doing. And my friends Jazza and Lex and Taryn and Sana came in and gave me edits and told me to like punch it up more, punch it up more, punch it up more. But yeah, it was interesting to have a moment of reflection upon my career so far. So yeah. I do not speak Portuguese, unfortunately. Very sorry. Just English and Spanish, a little bit of Arabic, a bit more French than Arabic, a little bit of Italian. So sadly, no Portuguese. I'm glad you're enjoying your masters. I feel like quite a lot of you have done masters, at least kind of the responses I got on Twitter. And we had, someone who once was a pastry is a PhD student. So yeah, punch it up. Arabic's going all right. I've had a bit of a pause from it. I found I was just like not keeping up with practicing it so much at the end of the 10-week course that I did. So yeah, that was something that sort of, I think, got left behind a little bit. But yeah, definitely something I'm going to keep doing and keep trying to do. And in autumn, depending on what my autumn looks like with, uni or not. I will do the beginners too, course. But I also want to like take some time to reflect on what I've been learning so far. Yes, I have been watching the Euros. I've been really enjoying them, particularly Saturday's game. England Ukraine was just among the most fun I've ever had watching England play, because it was just such a different, what's the word? Like such a different behaviour than I've seen from the England team. And to be fair, like I haven't watched them super carefully over the years between these international competitions, but like it's so much fun to watch Southgate's England. It's just an absolute delight. And the fun that they had playing was just great. But I'm also I'm excited, obviously I would love England to win, but if Denmark win, I also would be thrilled for them because they've been playing fantastically and obviously had this really tragic moment in their competition too. And it's been amazing to see their resilience there. So I don't know, it's just been fun. I'm sort of like having fun with all of it now. So how do you feel about John becoming Danish now that England is playing Denmark? I feel okay. Because there's quite a lot of Liverpool players on the England team, so I feel like he also has some solidarity there. Tan says, sorry if you've mentioned it, but you inspired me to delete my Instagram this morning and already I'm feeling less stressed. I'm so glad to hear that. So for those of you who don't know, I deleted my Instagram a few days ago. I had I had this realization. I was explaining all the things that I found difficult about Instagram to someone, and I was just like, well, then why am I still on it? Like it can feel a little ungrateful to throw or feel as though I'm like throwing away um like public favor or something. I don't know how to frame it exactly. Or just feel silly because we're in a world where we really value social media, social influence, followers, and so on, that it feels like there are all these things telling you not to do it. But actually, I'm not that interested, I don't think, in that kind of value. Like, I know that there are people who want to like follow my bike journeys and stuff, and I plan to find as helpful to both of us ways as possible to share that, like on here, for instance. Or I was thinking about restarting a blog, old school. But yeah, it's hard. Also, because like part of the reason why I held on to Instagram is because I wanted to keep up with people, like my friends and like family who live abroad and so on. But equally, I realized that I'm not actually keeping up with them. I'm keeping up with, it's quite like a passive connection, at least for me. And it's difficult also because I'm seeing like my friends who've had babies who I've never met, like I'm seeing them grow up too. But it's not, the advantages of it are not enough to outweigh the costs, because for me, I'd spend time on Instagram and then afterwards would feel really anxious or really unhappy, or just would see something that would just like fully ruin my day. And if I've taken so much care to sort of like build my life back up and look after myself and really value taking care of myself and really value my own boundaries. And then to have something on an app just like ruin my day, it just felt a bit like, oh, I don't need to do that. Another thing about it was that I was just the amount of hours I was spending on Instagram would just go really quickly. So the day, I think it was like a couple of days before I decided to like properly delete it, I had one day where I was really anxious about something else, and then I found myself spending tons and tons of time on Instagram, and I looked back at my screen time on my phone afterwards and it was like 8 hours, and that had been quite normal for me a few months prior, but because I'd been trying to reduce my use of it, I definitely was quite shocked to see myself still getting pulled into a pattern with Instagram. And now since I've deleted it fully, my screen time is now down to like 1 to 2 hours, and I hope to see that change, continue changing as I go on. And I agree. Yeah, I also find myself reading more. I find myself having more energy to just process things from the day, and like with uni at the moment, with my uni course right now, I like have time to think about these really huge concepts and sometimes like quite upsetting things or complicated things. And having the time to sort of work through them and think of what I think about them, think of how I'm going to approach an essay about them, think about how I could bring them into a video, just all sorts of things. So I think it's as much about stepping away from the sort of negatives of Instagram for me, and also um, creating myself the space. Oh, so Onyx Dragon, I am. It's there's two separate things. Right now, I'm doing a 2-week course, like a summer school, academic summer school, at SOAS, which is one of the University of London unis, in their development studies department. So my course is conflict and international development, and it's 2 weeks, and it's like a 15 credit course, and I write an essay at the end of it, and I've had a couple of assignments throughout. And yeah, I've been doing that this week and last week, and it's been really fun. And then separately, I've also applied to a master's. I won't find out for another like month or so, I reckon, in migration, mobility, and development. Again, in the development studies department at SOAS, and just really crossing my fingers for that. So yeah, formal education happened this summer. It returned to me. Hi, Taylor. Nice to see you. Yes, I'm very spontaneous. That's what everyone always says about me. I'm an extremely spontaneous person. It is interesting to see, yeah, your different, what's the word? Yeah, responses to social media and stuff. It's something that like, I don't know, like quitting Instagram, and I won't talk about this the whole time, but quitting Instagram shouldn't feel like it's like a brave thing. Like it feels silly to me to characterize as brave, and yet the decision to do it was a brave one because I had to walk away from something that, yeah, I was being told was valuable. I think that definitely the framework of I'm how many days? Like a month and 10 days or so away from my 30th birthday. And I might actually make a video about this. I'm really excited to turn 30. I feel really great, really proud of myself. And just like, I don't have any of the like 30 fears that I've been told about. And I'm very grateful for that. There's still time for those fears to come in. There's still like 6 weeks or something. But yeah, right now I just feel really excited about it. But I definitely wanted to just look at the things that I wanted to leave behind in my 20s, and sort of the pulse different things had on my life in my 20s, and leave the ones that, in the very therapy client words, no longer serve me. So yeah. Are you aiming to go for a career in international relations? No, not really. Like, I don't plan to stop working with John. Like, that's still where I see my career continuing. But that's definitely where my interests, not so much international relations, but like development studies, migration studies, are definitely where my interests in learning more lie. And they incorporate so much into my existing work. So through things like the Partners in Health project, but also just through things, I was talking about this a little bit in one of my seminars today, and the terms that one of my fellow students used was really interesting. I wrote some of them down because I was explaining, how I was interested in how we tell stories, how we tell migration stories, and talking about some different ways that I've experimented with that on YouTube and elsewhere. And she was using, talking about ethnography and talking about knowledge translation and like all of these different terms for the things that we do on YouTube, that I do on YouTube, that John does on YouTube, and that we've done throughout our different projects. And like even the books that we select for Life's Library, like I'm really interested in first-hand testimonial and ethnography, and those are the formats that, say, for instance, We Crossed a Bridge and It Trembled covers, um, that kind of stuff. So it's really exciting. I just feel really excited about it, and I also like that it doesn't that a huge distinction between how I feel about the application process for this and how I felt about the application process for university when I was much younger, is that it doesn't feel like it makes or breaks my worth. Whereas I do think that in the past, when I initially applied to uni, when I was younger, it really like it was about my value. Am I a valuable person? Am I a good person? Whereas now I'm like, oh, I'm great, and I'm interested. If I don't get this, that's cool. That's fine. Like I'll still do really interesting things and find other routes to that kind of education. Um, so yeah, it's really nice to just feel really solid. In as much as everything's chaotic and I still have my ups and downs and stuff, like there's a confidence in myself and a trust in myself that is new. So that's exciting. I'm just gonna scroll up a little bit. Valkyrie, if you get into the masters, will the credit from your summer course count? Yes, it will count as like I think either a mini module or like half module. So that'd be nice. Yeah, I mean, leaving these social media platforms is difficult because all of our friends, at least for me, like my friends from quote unquote real life, and then my friends from online are all on them. And it feels strange to walk away from it. It really does. But it is that thing of like, what what would it make room for? You know, like um, what does it make space? What does taking this out of my life make space for? So that's really nice. Yeah, so it's exciting. I feel like someone asked me about Oxford, whether I was going to apply to Oxford. Oh yeah, um, creme de toile. I'm going back to a PG dip this year. I remember watching you were going to apply for undergrad. Did you consider postgrad at Oxford or Cambridge? Yeah, I considered. There's a great refugee course and forced migration studies course at Oxford, and Oxford Merton College has one of my current fave thinkers on the topic. But yeah, it for one thing, to be honest, the tuition fee for SOAS is £13,000 for a master's, 1-3. The tuition fee for Oxford is like £23,000. And I just can't justify that cost when SOAS is still like number 5 in the world for development studies and Oxford is number 2 and like Cambridge is number 6. Like it just matters a little bit less to me to have that experience because I really value the experience I have. And the other thing I'd say is that something that I really value about SOAS is that my education to date has really focused on the global north, like especially my education at Exeter, like there was a real focus on like Europe and America. And something that North America rather, and something I really appreciate about SOAS is that even though, you know, no one's perfect at it, it has a real internationalist focus and you know, quite clearly lays out in its goals to have a focus on the global south, which is extremely important to me. So it's funny how those like priorities change a bit, and I think it definitely would be different if I were in different departments. But I think that a huge part of the grief around Oxford for me when I was a teenager and not getting into Oxford for me was because I was pinning everything on it. I was pinning my whole sense of self and my whole value on it. And that is just not the case anymore, which is just, it's so freeing, honestly. It's very freeing to like yourself. And I don't like myself 100% of the time, but I like myself a lot of the time. And it just takes the stress out of a lot of this stuff, which is really nice. Taylor, I wasn't expecting to go to therapy today, but here I am. I don't know, man. I've just mainlined so much therapy that it just comes out of me at all times. Tan says, "You seem like you're in a really good place right now, so lovely to see. Interested to know what's led to such positive changes, but of course I understand if it's personal." Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of different things, honestly, and some of it is personal, some of it isn't. I mean, some of it is just that it's a day where I happen to be feeling good, but a lot of it isn't that. It's as I've said before in here, like I have a really great therapist who I really trust and have worked with for over 3 years. Just someone that I found through searching directories online. There are free directories where you can look through qualified therapists. And I love working with my therapists, and I've also been able to, as the years go on, bring up bigger things with her, and been able to be more vulnerable in different ways, and work through things practically, and also have very practical advice for day-to-day life and so on. So that's one thing. I'm also medicated, which I'm not going to understate is very important for my personal well-being. That are like antidepressants for me are pretty essential, I'd say. Anyone who's seen me often would probably agree, because I have depression. I have major depressive disorder, so my moods will drop significantly. Without that extra help, in particular, they can drop much lower. So that's something. What else? I think I've managed to, get really prioritize my own needs. I think that I'm someone who definitely would put my needs last, and now have learned to put my needs first, and at least just consider them important. Like, just kind of take them into the equation. Like, a really basic example of this, which is oversimplifying it very much, but a really basic example of this is, say a friend and I were deciding where to go out to eat. I'd definitely take their input on it at a much higher value than my own input on it. So if I really didn't feel like getting pizza, but they were like, "Oh, I really want to get pizza tonight," I'd be like, "Let's get pizza. That sounds great." So it's just this complete like abandonment of myself and what I wanted and what I needed, that I always felt was like, "Oh, that doesn't matter. It's kind of trivial," but actually, it's really vital to listen to yourself and listen to your needs. So that applies in so many different directions as well. But I think that this one in particular, needs, very important. Other positive changes, I still do a lot of strength training, which I love. I work with a great trainer who I can also talk very openly about my own history with eating disorders, and the kinds of behaviors that certain things trigger. And we've started talking about nutrition lately, and like that for me is historically a very terrifying thing to do, but it's felt very safe, and same as in therapy, nutrition has come into it. But I really I love strength training. Like, it's so fun to feel myself make progress. And then, even like, I was really downhearted when like lockdowns would happen, and then I'd come out of lockdown and I wouldn't be able to do the same thing as I would before lockdown. But then I'd be able to build certain things back up or try in a different direction. Like, we've been working a lot on shoulder health, because my shoulders, like a lot of us, are like curved in from typing and texting, but also from riding my bike. My shoulders curve in, but lately my shoulder health has been much better, and we've been just doing a lot of that kind of work, working a lot on like hips and pelvis and stuff, again through cycling. And it's all of that. Like, it's just making time for all of these things in my life that, at the heart of it, are prioritizing my well-being, because it's worth prioritizing. That's the biggest shift that's happened. So I feel really well. It's nice. It's sometimes difficult to just see the contrast between how well I feel right now and how much I was struggling, as much as like 2 to 3 months ago even. But yeah. Thomas shares my experience of rejection from Oxford. Yeah, man. Yeah, I feel like that's like a whole genre in itself. I haven't read How to Do Nothing. but I'm glad that it was impactful for you. I have heard a lot about it. I just currently I've put myself on a book buying ban. So I currently have not let myself buy any more books because I have about 30 or so to read. 30 before 30. So yeah, and also I'm reading a lot for school. So like I'm reading No Friend But the Mountains right now, which was written from Manus Island in Australia by a Kurdish refugee who wrote it all on his phone. And he's a poet as well. So he used like this poetry throughout. It's really interesting. So I'm reading all sorts of different things for my studies, and then I'm also reading for pleasure. I just finished reading The Talented Mr. Ripley, which by Patricia Highsmith, which I love. So much fun. I want to read more of them. I'm also on Storygraph. I should really put that in my description, but I'll put that in a video. I'm on Storygraph, so you can follow what I'm reading there too. But all sorts. I can't buy any more books. That's basically the long and the short of it. What source am I referring to when talking about which number in the world these programs are? Oh yeah, so this is also, this isn't necessarily the best way to value, I guess, where to study, but it's something that was definitely very ingrained in me from my school years, especially because my secondary school, which was a grammar school, so you could go for free, that was the only option. People only went for free, but you had to test to get into it, was kind of repeatedly in the top 3 or 4, and sometimes the top of the list of like A-level results and GCSE results. So it always ranked really high, which naturally meant that the school placed a lot of emphasis on rankings of like league table rankings of universities, of schools, of everything. And so I mean, I need to try and like sometimes value that stuff a bit less, but I do still find myself going to lists of rankings. I think it's the QS rankings is the ones that I was looking at. And a lot of the time they take into account, you should look how they're measuring it, but they take into account like student enjoyment and so on. Some, I think, overemphasize certain values over others, like post-degree employment, for instance, is often like over-measured, but yeah, there's a lot. I have certain friends in nerdfighter groups on Facebook that I enjoy, so I don't know if I want to leave entirely. Yeah, I've quit Facebook as well, and that was difficult because a lot of my killers friends are on Facebook, so it's difficult. It's a mix, isn't it? I just I'll figure it out. Like, it won't mean that I'll lose those friends. It's just also a bit like, oh, I did like that online community. Thoughts on property investment? What made you decide to pay off your student loan as opposed to investing that money elsewhere? I don't really like having debt. I know that no one likes having debt, but like I really don't like having debt. It really stresses me out. And so when I was working in the States, I started to prioritize paying off that student loan. That just became a priority for me. And also, like, frankly, I'm not super focused on buying at the moment, partly because house prices in London are high anyway. And even though interest rates for mortgages are really low right now, so you could get a mortgage, like quite a decent mortgage, without locking in a good interest rate for a while. It's also not a priority for me, and I love the flat that I live in. Like, it really feels like my home. It really feels like a main goal for me to continue to live here, and I'm so comfortable here that I don't feel like the investment in moving somewhere that I don't love as much as here is worth it necessarily. So that's kind of how I've been thinking about it. But also because I'm single, and I mean, this has been something I'm thinking loads about lately. Like, there aren't that many frameworks for what it means to be like a single 29-year-old who doesn't have plans to start a family in the near future, who has means, like I've got money through my work and through saving from that work. There aren't that many frameworks for that. So I find that all the traditional like financial advice structures often talk to me as though I'm living in a different situation than what I am, and that the rain is lovely, as though my priorities are different from what they are. And having come to peace with that, I'm then sort of look at what I want, and what I want is to continue to live in this flat, and give a big portion of my money to organisations that are investing in the communities in which I live, especially at the moment with arts funding being so underfunded by our government, just things like that. I think it's like there isn't any one set of priorities for a person, and it's been very helpful for me to acknowledge that and see, like, okay, well, what are my priorities for saving and for using my money, and so on. I love all the people coming in being like, what a surprise. Sarah says, strength training has been such a confidence boost for me. My mantra has been, my body can do more than I think it can. Yeah, it's really cool to just like see that build and build. Like I've been practicing my dead hangs, which is when you just like hang from pull-up bars, and just building those up week on week. It's been really exciting. I can feel my body hold my own weight more and more. It's great. Do you have any advice for feeling disillusioned with your studies after graduating? Graduating during a pandemic has left me very exhausted and unmotivated. I have never graduated during a pandemic, I'm afraid. So, but I will say that I was pretty exhausted after graduating. Like I expected to have a lot of energy for the world, and actually what I found was I was really, really tired. So I think, allowing your space a little time to rest for one is important, and being kind and gentle to yourself. And I think also, I don't know, I think that there can be, it kind of goes back to what I was saying before about like abandoning your own needs and abandoning yourself. Um, Maybe like approach it in a sense of like just being really kind to yourself and thinking, okay, I went in for this degree because of these reasons, because I loved this thing. I had this experience. It's okay to acknowledge that if it didn't turn out how I expected it, or it didn't turn out, if it didn't give me the sort of nourishment that I wanted to, that doesn't mean it was a waste of time or that I made a bad choice. It just means that it didn't give me something. So, are there places outside of academia and maybe outside of work or outside of all of those frameworks where I can find what I need? And I guess that just comes back to identifying, like, what is it that I need right now? Is it rest? Is it play? Like, you've been working so hard and through really difficult circumstances? Are there ways in which you can give yourself play, especially away from a screen? I certainly have found a lot over the last 6 months, especially, that when I sort of have time away from a screen, I'm so nourished. So, I use the word nourishment all the time now. I sound like, I don't know, I sound like something, but that is how I think about it. I feel like a little plant, and then you put little plant food, and I'm like, reading, this is so good for me. So yeah, I think don't be afraid to try new things that might be fun for you, whether that's like reading and researching about different subjects for fun, or if that's axe throwing, that's also great too, or making time to bake yourself your favorite cake can also be that. So that would be my advice, but it's not comprehensive. And just know that we're all here rooting for you as well. It's been a very tiring time. I feel very exhausted sometimes, for sure. Isn't post-degree employment the main goal? Well, it depends. That's the thing. Like, that's the assumption with university. Like, there's definitely the assumption with my university was with my secondary school, was that you go to university to get a job, and that wasn't actually my goal. Because my goal was, I went to university because I wanted to know more about English lit, knowing that yes, my degree would be applicable to a range of industries, but like that was less to do with my degree as much as it was about like how will I then go into the world. And what happened is that like this incredible job came along with John that like his isn't something that fits into a graduate scheme, you know, or isn't something that fits into any existing work or work structure, from my experience at least. So I don't know. And maybe this is a really privileged thing to say, but I was confident in my ability to find a way to feed myself and pay rent. So post degree employment wasn't a priority for me when I was looking for universities. And then with postgrad, obviously, it's also different because I already have a job that I love and have no intention of moving from. So yeah, I think that like that, you know, a lot of people will take the course I'm taking, for instance, so that they can go and work in NGOs, so that they can or go on to further academia, like do their PhD, for instance. But yeah, again, that's not really the case with me. So I think you just have to look at what you're prioritizing, and then if there's a metric to measure that in some way, have a look through that as well. My thoughts on turning 30. I was thinking about maybe making a video about that. Like that's definitely something I'm thinking about making a video about. Just because I'm so excited about it, and I haven't really seen, I mean, to be fair, I haven't really watched many videos about turning 30, but when I hear people talk about turning 30, they talk about the fear and like they talk about the stress that they're under. And I have like, you know, moments when I think like, oh, this thing or that stereotypical pre-30 thing. But I don't know. I feel like I want to show the enthusiastic side. So this way, I might think about reflections and advice for people in their early or mid-20s a bit more, and then put it into a video. Yeah. What are a few things I've been grateful for lately? The vaccines, very grateful for them, but also do really feel like vaccine equity still has a long way to go. Obviously, here in the UK, we have, you know, hoarded a lot of vaccines, and the vaccination program rollout is amazing here, and the percentage of adults with vaccines is amazing here. But at the same time, it's not going to stop the pandemic until we get vaccines out to everyone worldwide. So it's I feel grateful for the vaccines, but I also feel very fraught about other elements of their distribution. Other things I feel grateful for, when the sun comes out. It's been a very rainy, grey summer here in the UK after we had an amazing and gorgeous summer last year. So I feel a bit like I sort of took it for granted, I think, that this summer would be like last year's. But yeah, it's been a bit rainy, but still I just feel particularly grateful for the sunny hours, and I'm also really grateful for my bike. I love my bike. I love cycling around. I'm off to Scotland in a couple of weeks, hopefully. So yeah, it's really exciting to um, what's the word? Just see my cycling go from strength to strength and exploring all these new places. And I feel really grateful for the opportunity to do that, and for the flexibility of my work as well to do that. So that's exciting. Do you have any advice of how not to make work the main focus? I'm trying to create a better work-life balance, which is hard as a teacher. I mean, like, you do an incredible job. I think, like, let me just say this, like, you do an incredible job up front. Teaching is just remarkable to me. So thank you for your work as a teacher. But yeah, it's difficult not to make work the main focus, because I think throughout education, I at least was told that work was the main focus, and that in general, like the future was the main focus, and that the future was an assessment of your value as a person, or of my value as a person. So it's difficult to not do that and just sort of like shift that behavior. I think maybe instead of thinking, how do I not make work the main focus, think, what would I like to make another focus? Like, where would I like to invest more time, as it were? I had a conversation a while ago with someone when they were saying, like, well, who are friends where you'd like to invest more time in that friendship? Who are people that you'd like to get to know a bit more? And it's sort of, rather than rejigging like my work life or my commitments or anything like that, it just made me think where I did want to spend a little bit more time, and rather feeling like, oh, I don't have enough time to do that or talk to that person as much as I'd want to, I just found a way to make it happen. So I'm a big believer in, if you find like the positive phrasing of something that you want changed, it's definitely easier to change it rather than sort of like beating yourself up about it, about, oh, why am I always making work the main focus? How do I not do this? And seeing it in the negative, seeing it in the positive, I think can be a really helpful and also effective way to do it, at least in my experience. But also, like, just I think you can try different things and see what sticks. We're not always going to make big changes in our life and have them be the one that sticks, or they might stick for like a month and then you have to try something new, or they might stick for the rest of your life. Like, we don't know. Yeah. Um, you've all got such good questions. Um, Share memories from A level days. Oh gosh, I don't have. I honestly almost can't really remember what it was like to be in A levels. Like, it's such a long time ago for me now, and I just remember working so hard all the time, and then also like I'd work so hard in the week, and then I'd go to the bookshop and work so hard in the weekends, and in the evenings I'd see my friends, and it was just like constant. There was like so much stuff I was doing. It's amazing that I ever managed to make videos. Um, it was a lot. It was a lot of stuff. I definitely wish I'd been much kinder to myself, and that I'd kind of been a bit more gentle about all the pressure I put on myself. But I also, had so many great people around me. Like, the girls I went to school with were so much fun, and I really love them. And it's been nice, I think, to there was a period during the Pan ED where we all started like reaching out to each other a bit more and sort of like checking in and seeing how everyone was doing. And it was just nice to reconnect with people from a long time ago who knew me when I was a teenager and sort of like chaotic, coming, I'm still chaotic, but a different kind of chaotic, and coming into the world, and for whom I will feel like love for my entire life. And that's really exciting. Um, how have I developed a career in my work with John? I seem ambitious. Have I felt the need to climb the ladder at all? No, because I think I'm just not that interested in like, because I feel really valued in my work with him. Like, I feel very valued by him and by the other people we work with, um, in all sorts of different ways. But I just I don't find the idea of changing jobs driven by, say, like a change in title or some kind of external marker of growth interesting, because I know that I've grown so much in my work and that I've learned so much because the job is so varied and new things come along that I would never expect. New opportunities come along that I never expect. And I think it's important. I think the work we do is important. It's not the most important thing in the entire world, but it's important to me, and it's important to the people we work with. I think the values are important, and I think that um, the respect for my time and my energy is also just something that I wouldn't trade away for anything. Um, I'm just, yeah, I'm not worried about climbing the ladder, because I think for me, I just don't really see the ladder. Like, it's, yeah, I don't know. Again, like, I feel extremely lucky to have a job that I love and that has facilitated such growth. And writing my personal statement and being able to reflect on that and the places where I've been able to like explore and play and say I'd like to try more of this and do less of this, or like have the support of um, our wonderful assistant, who Nikki, who has driven so much of the Partners in Health project, things like that. Like, it just, the job continues to grow and evolve, and that can't be reflected by like a yearly title change or anything. So that's very excited for me. What are my thoughts on Renegade? I love Renegade. I have been listening to nothing else since it came out. I've been singing it out loud on the street. I even entertained the thought of me doing a cover of it, which, like, I'm not a very good singer, so I don't know if I should try and do that, but I just really liked the idea of it because I just, it's sort of in my range, and I just, I've been singing it all the time. So who knows? Maybe that will be something I just chuck out there. But yeah, it's really great fun. I am also excited that there's another track on that album with Taylor. It's so exciting to me because I love The National, and I that's not a combination that in my mind I would have put together, but of course it makes so much sense. And now that sort of generative approach to just like putting work out there is really exciting, and I think that more than anything has yeah, made me thrilled. But yeah, I would still like to make an Evermore video. There's so many videos I'd like to make. I just yeah, just have to be like, I just have to know myself that like I will get there one day to make all the videos that I want to make, release some of them. My plans for the next year, well, we were talking about that a little while ago. I've applied for a master's. So if I get into that, I'll find out in the next month, or maybe a bit longer than a month, because all the academics go on holiday over the next month or two. And yeah, so if I do that, then I have 2 taught terms. So that's like autumn to winter, winter to spring, basically, and I write a dissertation. So that would structure a lot of my coming year. Otherwise, it's I have a lot of gig tickets. Those are my other plans for the coming year. I have a lot of tickets to see The Killers. I have a lot of tickets to see Lord. I have three different Lord tickets I'm excited about. And I'm seeing like Wolf Alice, I'm seeing Griff, I'm seeing Dua Lipa. It should be a really fun. I'm seeing Orla Gartland. It should be a really fun coming months in more ways than one. But yeah, my hope is that it will be masters. And that also, like, at some point I will feel safe to do international travel again, because while that's not my focus at the moment, while I'm really enjoying exploring the UK, I have family abroad, I have loved ones abroad, so I would like to be able to visit them and meet all their babies. Everyone's been having babies during this pandemic, it feels like. Yeah. What do you do to stay safe and maintain your bike on your cycling trips? I'd like to start cycling long distances, but I know nothing about bike maintenance. To be honest, most of the things I've learned about bike maintenance, most of the things I've learned about bike maintenance, I've learned through YouTube. So I just look up different questions I have about bike maintenance. I really like their channel, Global Cycling Network, because their videos are quite short and it has good advice. And then if I find a certain problem, I search for it, and there's inevitably a video helping me tackle that. But I also, to be honest, like, most of my maintenance is done at the bike shop. Like, I take my bike for pretty regular services, especially right before really long trips. So like, I'm off to Scotland in a couple of weeks, and I'm taking my bike in on Friday to get it all checked out and checked up. And that is, I sort of factor that into the cost of the trip, because cycling is really long distances. It's really helpful to know that like everything is pretty tip top. I also save on the map everywhere that there's a cycle shop, which will be more difficult in the Highlands for sure. But yeah, it's definitely something that I like keep track of, because there have been cases, like there was one on the Midlands trip where one of the bolts on my bike was what's it called? It was like an Allen. It had like a hex. Oh my god, what's it called? A hex like head to it, and it was completely stripped. So I had to take it in to a bike shop, and they very kindly fixed it for me for free. And it's just like that kind of help along the way that I wouldn't have been able to do that myself, or find the right one maybe as quickly as they were. And yeah, and they kind of solved that little problem for me. So it's a mix of me doing my own sort of like spot checks and spot maintenances, like what to do with a spoke breaks or what to do if I get a puncture, but then combining that with knowing where the experts are. Because with things like a spoke, for instance, I know how to like tie the spoke around or tape it so that I can get to my evening's destination. But I'd love to have somewhere where the next morning I can take it in and have them like put a new spoke in. So just things like that. Um, I'm gonna go in a second because I have to do some reading for my course. Um, but I've been really enjoying all your comments to each other as well. Um, Kaplunka asks, any chance of more back burners? Yeah, I plan to do another one actually. I plan to do another one this spring, and then like I think life just sort of took over a bit. But I'd really like to do the new Anna Jones cookbook one because it's so good and so yummy. So I might do that August. I might cook from that, but I'll have to see kind of how things are going. Although, yeah, I think that's probably the next one that I want to do. The other one I have that I've been thinking of doing is a Nigel Slater book, but it's called Spring Summer, and I feel like by the time I get around to it, it won't be spring summer. I got a rice cooker recently, which I'm so excited about because it just makes perfect rice. But yeah, and another video that I will make soon. I did this cycling Q&A form, Google form a little while ago, so people sent me lots of cycling questions, and I will record the answers to that soon. It's on the list. It's on the list. Sometimes I think like, oh, maybe I'll get someone to like help me out with a couple of edits so that I can upload more videos that I sort of have on the back burner. But then I just really enjoy editing them myself and finding my own rhythm of them. If they're just, a little irregular. Hello. Yeah, hi to anyone who didn't have questions and just wants to say hi. Hi back to you. I hope you're all doing all right. I know that the world is still, I don't know how to say it, bananas. It's still bananas, but I hope you are doing okay. Biking on some busy roads is scary. Sometimes it's not. Some motorists are respectful of cyclists. Some aren't. Some aren't, and then some roads are better than others. But a lot of people say like they're afraid to cycle in London, and I actually find it all right. But then again, I've grown up cycling here, so that's definitely a factor. But yeah, I'm going to sign off now. Thank you for joining me. This was really fun, and hopefully not too long until I upload another video soon. But yeah, I definitely know that I'm working on it. They just take a little bit of these long ones take a little bit of time, but I think the next one will be the Midland cycle, which I'm excited to upload just for a little bit of escapism. Okay, goodbye.